Never engage in self-pity. Ever. When you engage in self-pity, you assume the role of a victim. And it's important to never allow yourself to play the victim, even if you were victimized. Well, how do you do that? Well, let me explain a little bit about this. The easy and appealing notion of playing the victim is that it relieves you of all personal responsibility for your ability to change. And it's appealing for so many people because it requires no effort on your part. And once you claim the role of a victim, every single occurrence in your life can be blamed on external circumstances, all while failing to point the finger at yourself. Now, even if you're not responsible for what has happened to you, you are always responsible for how you handle it and how you move forward in your life. However, as soon as you assume the role of a victim, then you immediately strip yourself of all personal accountability and all personal responsibility and all self-empowerment. You strip yourself from the ability to change your circumstances and better your situation. You refuse to be able to see that you're able to improvise with what you do have to work with. Now, people who claim the role of the victim can never accomplish the overcoming of their adversity as long as they hold on to the notion that they are not responsible for change or that they are not responsible for how they overcome their adversity. However, when you assume personal responsibility, you take ownership of your actions and you take ownership of your decisions. This is a very frightening thing for a lot of people. But successful people, people who overcome adversity, people who overcome hardship, they own all of their mistakes as well as their successes in lives. The ones who don't will always hide behind the victim mentality because it's the easier thing to do. They blame everything in their life on everything else or everybody else except for themselves. Remember, even if what happened to you is not your fault, how you respond is entirely on you. Nobody else, not your friends, not your loved ones, not an act of the universe, whatever. It's on you on how you respond to these circumstances. Now, it's interesting. I'll tell you a little story about my childhood. I grew up with my grandparents who were very heavy alcoholics. I seen a lot of violence in my household. I grew up with a lot of violent people, a lot of angry people who were intoxicated all the time and who were very incoherent, who would say very belittling things to myself, such as "you'll never amount to anything in life." Anyway, the point is this really weighed down on my subconscious mind. This really stripped away my sense of significance. It stripped away my sense of dignity, my sense of self-worth. By the time I was 12, 13 years old, I was chronically depressed. I was socially anxious. I would hide in my room time in and time out, expecting the world to give me handouts simply because I was a victim to my circumstances in life. I was a victim to living with alcoholics who didn't understand me, and I was a victim to people who were physically and emotionally abusive. This is what I would tell myself. I'm a victim. I deserve better. I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me? What have I ever done in life to deserve this treatment? Nothing. The world owes me. The world owes me happiness. It's not up to myself to pursue my own happiness. The world owes me happiness. So what I would do is I would escape this cycle through eating horrible food. That was my drug of choice. Food, especially fast food. Oh, I would eat myself into a stupor. I allowed myself to get borderline obese. I'm 5'10". I allowed myself to get almost 250 pounds. Now imagine that, at 5'10", 250 pounds, pushing it. Not a healthy sight. I went into the doctor when I was about 14 years old. I had my blood pressure taken. My blood pressure was 185 over 110. That is astronomically high. I was borderline diabetic, and I was diagnosed with clinical depression. All in my teenage years, not even 16 years old yet. Wow, life really sucked for myself, right? Here I am, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I can't even stand the sight of what I'm looking at. Surely none of this is my fault, right? I mean, I'm a victim to growing up with alcoholics and growing up with an abusive household and nobody who understood my desires. Right. That's actually far from the truth. In fact, it wasn't until I had that breakthrough later on in life to where I was able to take advantage and improvise the circumstances that I did have and finally say, you know what, enough is enough. I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I was so disgusted that the pain for change no longer outweighed the pain of staying in that state of mind and that state of being. I took a 100% responsibility for my actions and I decided to move forward, commit to change, and better myself day in and day out, disciplining myself 100%. No more excuses. The excuses went out the window. I put all my excuses in a bag and I blew up that bag. There were no more excuses. Change was all on me at this point. I was the one responsible for change. I will no longer be a victim to my life circumstances. I will allow the experiences of my past to empower me with the knowledge and capabilities to persevere forward through adversity with cheerfulness. each and every time. Now, it's a difficult thing for people to fathom because it's easy to make an excuse to hide behind. And then when you hide behind your excuse, a lot of people will expect sympathy from other people to validate their own excuses so they don't feel guilty in making the excuses in the first place. Again, further relinquishing their personal responsibility and their personal accountability ability to change. Never ever engage in a pity party. I did. I engaged in pity parties. And then I would cry when no one would show up to my pity parties. And then, on the events when people would show up to my pity parties, I would depend on that sympathy to serve as a temporary form of gratification, to give me a temporary feeling of pleasantness that was nothing more than just a few hours of, oh, this feels good to have people get on my level. Well, guess what? Reality slapped me right back in the face and I get right back to the same cycle I was in. Sympathizing with people it's great in an effort to be able to understand them and really listen to them with a purpose. However, if you're just sitting there sympathizing with how bad their life sucks, guess what? You're enabling the problem. Remember, you are never bound by the circumstances in life. You have the power right now to choose to improvise with what you have to better yourself into a situation, to provide yourself with more opportunities for success and happiness. Remember, never be a victim at life. Always be the victor. Always rise up. You have the choice to do so. Make that decision because it is your decision to make, nobody else's. Think about it.